in the world, and we would be much richer. In the last 10 years, we have accumulated $4 trillion worth of debt due to the wars that we're fighting. Think how far that money could have gone in society here. How much better off we would be. We wouldn't be so much in debt. Today we are a poorer nation. We have the greatest debt in the history of the world, and both foreign and domestic. And it is the foreign policy that brings people down so often. It isn't the wars that finally eliminate a whole empire. The Soviets went down not because we had to have that war, but because they finally went bankrupt and they had to go home. And this is today our greatest threat. The one thing I can assure you of, with my experience in the service and my experience in Washington, and knowing a little bit about our military power, we do not have to worry about anybody touching us militarily. We have the strongest military. That much confidence that we have nothing to worry about, because when we take an oath in the office, we take an oath to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, I'm more worried right now about the domestic problems we have. In these past 10 years. And there has been fear, and some of it you can understand it, but it doesn't justify it. And we have accepted this notion in this last decade that it's okay to sacrifice some of our liberties to be safe. That is correct. It is never necessary to sacrifice liberty for the safety. And the founder said, if you do, you're not going to be safe, and you will lose everything. You will not, and you'll lose your liberties as well. And that is what happened. So immediately after 9/11, within a week or two, we passed this thing called the Patriot Act. Now, I know personally some members of Congress have voted for the Patriot Act because they said it sounded good. I argued with one member on the day he was voting for it, and I said, why are you voting for this? You haven't even had time to read it. This just came up an hour ago. He said, well, I know. I said, you know, there's some bad stuff in this bill. He said, I know. And I said, why are you going to vote for it? He said, well, I just can't go home and explain to my constituents under these conditions why I voted against the Patriot Act. I said, well, that's your job. Go home and explain it to them. Repeal the Fourth Amendment Act, maybe a lot less people would have voted for it. So, next year we'll also put on the list the repeal of the Patriot Act and get we'll call that bill to restore the Fourth Amendment Act, and maybe more people will vote for it under those conditions. But our liberties are being systematically undermined. With the Patriot Act, we've essentially lost our privacy, and it has been eroding for a long time, but it is essentially gone. It also gives the authority to this agency of government, which I hope is not a friend of yours, because it's not a friend of mine, and that's TSA at the airports. You know, actually, the purpose of the members of Congress and the President isn't to make us safe. The Second Amendment is supposed to make us safe. But the purpose, the oath of office is, we don't take an oath to, an allegiance to our political parties, or that we provide safety above all efforts and ignore liberty. The oath of office says, obey the law and obey the Constitution, is what the oath of office says. Now, there's been a bit of an uproar just in the last couple of weeks, and justified to a large degree, about the President lecturing the Supreme Court on what they should do with Obamacare. And I think the easiest answer there is repeal the whole thing.